Welcome to the Tribe of Testimonies. Here you will find conversations with faithful Native American members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, sharing their stories and their love of the Savior. My name's Andrea Hales. I'm Navajo, and I'm glad that you've decided to come and join us today.
Today my guests are Ilene Begay and Justin Begay.
And I'm really excited about sharing this interview with you. I actually had another person come and help me with this interview as well. Priscilla Pearson, you can find her episode from last year. I don't remember which number she was, but Priscilla came and helped me edit this just a little bit to make sure I clipped out the whisperings back and forth that needed to be clipped out. So Irene is a Navajo speaker and not an English speaker, and so you'll hear that. And her son Justin is the one who translated it for us. And it's just, oh my gosh, this story is wonderful. I wish we had more time to talk. I'm really excited to share, and here they are.
I have a special guest tonight. I'm on the phone with Brother Justin Begay and his mom, Ilene Begay. And Justin is on the phone with us. He's not the one going to be doing the interview. He will be translating for his mother. And so I'm really excited about that. So if you want to introduce yourself a little bit, Justin, that would be great. Otherwise, Sister Begay, would you please introduce yourself in your tribal way as much as possible? And I know you can do it in your language because that's why Justin's here.
Yeah, okay.
Is a financial between Ebashin Hatchini, Nationale, Tia Ani, Etashi, what our Spanish.
So my mom is from the Mini Goats clan. She's born for the Deerwater people. Her grandpa on her mom's side is Towering House people, and her grandfather on her her mom's, did I say her mom's side? I'm sorry. On her dad's side. Yeah. Oh.
Kachini.
Okay, her paternal grandpa is Red running into the water clan.
And where do you live right now, Sister Begay?
Her permanent home is Copper Mine, which is 13 miles south of Page on the reservation, Page, Arizona. And that's where she was born, that's where she was raised, and that's where she's lived her whole life. But my dad died just a few months ago, during just right around Thanksgiving time, and she's been staying with my sisters the past few months down here in Mesa, Arizona. So that's where we are this evening.
Okay. Sister Begay, would you please share something that you love about your heritage? It could be a story, a celebration, a ceremony, a way of life. Something that you love about your heritage, but especially as it relates to the gospel of Jesus Christ.
Church bedet ego ito John Bodel.
Germ. Lady Bahunzi de ya. Church to hat new Bahunzi. Najan Nahagadi hatne. Na kohatati hatnise. Ado had a hot out. Ado nas horses. Na yo Nahagata yo tlapa Bahunzi. Aroste Bahunezin do Wishite. I did a show missionary or taco da Kaita Saint the Banda and so Saint the Basanda Losh. The whole one go. Of course, I did missionary than Hins and Handa Kako. Sataya, Oyo, Payatanits and he Ketanit Lum. Missionary da Kako. Oyo dan date in there. When I saw the honest aid as a nature, I in that Allah Anne, the church, Yada has nagging in the Doaya, or that instant. Doaya, she
That's a watch that. So she said she was raised in traditional home, obviously, with my grandparents, and at that time, everybody was practicing traditionally. Everything was done the Navajo way, and she had never heard of the church. But as she got a little bit, probably in her teenage years, the missionaries began to come around, and she recognized them, and she knew that they were missionaries. And she says that she was a little bit embarrassed and shy because being a girl, a young girl. But then she kind of began to be open to them as they would come and visit. And as they taught, they had the opportunity to take some missionary discussions and listen. She began to be open and thought, this might be true. I think these what I'm hearing is good, and it is a good thing.
wrote out a by she was out of Bahunezin. Out of sister. Place in all that is car. I didn't not have car and the issues that has net. Oh, yeah, what missionary issues that has net. Smuggles J. or church. Toya was Bahazunda. J. the Hasako. To Ebes Bahazundako. Of course, she a large Bahunson. Nila Nizi. Adol. Banshitwajo, she has never. Adol 1965 that baptized in Dolly. She don't need. Of course, Page gave baptized and get then it down. Late to Bako Ea. Pelagana Ea, Sabatin Sky. Adi Ea, baptized Shedilia. Elder Robert Oliego, Ada Hodi Navajo, a baptized Sheila. Ako Ado Bahunson, baptized Shedilia, Roda Aisha, shuts all those. Ako ini zi, to the harder that of its application in Fatipati Yaki, baptized Shedilia again zi. Thou was a bit penny a singed in the lesson summer. Adi Hahor Zish.
Oh, so I'm sorry. Just before this interview, I told my mom that she will likely ask you about your conversion story. So my mom, instead of answering the question with her culture, is kind of starting to tell her story. I think of how she joined the church. So anyway, so she began listening to the missionaries, and her dad was a medicine man, and practiced the traditional way. But she began to understand what the missionaries were teaching, and she liked it. So she accepted the challenge to be baptized. And at the time, the year was 1965, and there was no place in Page that she could be baptized in. Page was a really young town back then. I think it was founded in 57, so it was really, really, really small. So they had to go to Tuba City, which is about 80 miles away. So some members from Page took her to Tuba City to be baptized. And she remembers that she was confirmed on the same day. And at the time, upon being confirmed, she says she had the thought in her mind, this is where I'm at. This is what I committed myself to, and I'm never going to turn away from it.
Aro ba church go. Sana sta. Bandissa. Aro shitaden do na street on zi. Ako. An chongone ashnish peshki. Da ikiskone. Ako ashish navigator arquie nashli. Are shitaden an nashli o hahol jish. Ako. Doeya. She's not kin lead that ani anything. She's journey adult at that's on the sea. What are she called Jishko? Arunana hego. Akoya, on the high. She's on the has lean on the has he, Plihidi Aj. Patin, she not hego on the. She's on the has lean. I said I had a sound a shadow list or sweet about this shadow. And send us a whole just day. Uncle. And then I suggest you, Hanatsi. Ado bani bod asa hona shatene shatnike. Anko aros team by Bashit Elti. So it ashipan shoda.
So she began attending church in Page, and she learned what tithing was, and she began to pay tithing. She got a job at the laundromat in Page, and she said she earned a small wage there, and she learned to pay tithing from what she earned. She didn't think two ways about the gospel. She really wanted to be committed to it. She prayed often, learned the value of prayer, and she prayed often. A year later, when she was 30 years old, she married. She married my dad, and up to that point, she it was a little bit later in life. She was single that whole time, and she said she really didn't. She used to say that she didn't want to marry. She wants to always stay single. And her dad would get after her and say, that's not a very good thing that you say. You should someday marry. And it wasn't, she didn't find my dad herself. It was an arranged marriage, how the old folks used to do it. And her mom and dad arranged the marriage for her, and that's how she was able to marry my dad. She tahulna git nas tahulna. So hulna di tahusna di kid ashna hulna.
Such a thing now that it.
So dad ado bebenia Aisha ado hona hanan.
Joy has as Shichonet by Paniado. Our church is on the star. Bedo or Jean Contagaco. Naki Nahako. Nika where has lean. Nika where has legal. According that I see church. Yahanata, Yana, such a church used at an assassin at the church yeditza. Was a bay, so the students the church yedit or doesn't single. La Saji. A court church in ditza. I only have wait at the end. Accessible. Apple gone, he don't need. Apple go to hush. He don't need. Adoya, Mesa Temple. A temple hadit ash. The Connie actually that the Nebusnik has a temple. Hadadi kre. Uncle Adoya, you see, eat on her whole jish. A call. Nahatchin. Eya. They. You see, and here, Nahalchinigi Ayat at Ake Snaki Aro Shiaj Aro and Alchinip Aquasilio Alchinibitini Klingo Aya await and Hananalti and he await and Lohanaho Able Stains and Lane.
So after becoming a member of the church and being active, she would go often. But my dad did not go. He was a member already. He had joined the church a few years before while he was still in school at the Intermountain Indian School in Brigham City, Utah, but had since quit going to church. And she really was kind of worried about that. And she used to pray fervently that he would come back to church. Just before they were married 2 years, they had a baby, my older sister, and that's when my dad finally kind of decided to start going back to church. So they started going back to church together. Soon after, with direction from some of the members, leaders in the Page area, they were counseled and encouraged to go to the temple. So they prepared themselves and they were able to go to the Mesa Temple. Well, my older sister was still a young baby, and they went with others. There were some other members that were also endowed on the same day. But after their temple experience, she said they both together, her and my dad, really kind of bared down and began to be active in the church. She says she has 4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls. She had 3 naturally, and after the 3 were a little bit older, they really wanted to have more kids, but weren't able to, so that they decided to adopt another child.
Ado Nas Gorgisko. She told that I see a church. Yep, it's easily Ado church in Anish Padit and Bishop Ilia. Ado
Så säger the question on the branch president or high counselor då hade inte stake president kid nästa.
Ado Chichona
Hade inte bishop betilja.
Ado Nas Bahol just high cousin that can lean there. Ado Anas was just Ada Bishop. He kid Nanista. Ado you see Nahashindo I see here but see does linko. Hatane sego. Nika well lunch nagaki mission go to the late Spain commission konaya. Ado kwa nana tahaki APY ostha ado ado mission go to natitza. Ohio Jananasa Niyash Nanstado Mission that natitza handorso. A kid and Alahaki nana le quango. A con nana sack on hatchin that's on general. Annette in general be at the whole at church Ayenson. Uncle you see, yat echo. Be at the whole.
Okay. So she failed to mention any more about her adoption. My mom and dad adopted my youngest brother when he was 3 months old. He was actually from the Gila River tribe. They had an opportunity to adopt another native baby, so they were able to do that, and they were really feel like they're really blessed with that happening. So after having 4 kids, she says her husband really began to grow and become strong in the church, and he was able to receive a lot of callings and responsibilities. He was first called to be a high counselor in the stake as a young father, and his next calling was a counselor to the stake president in the Page, Arizona stake. And following those, he had a lot of different callings as well. Branch president more than once. He was called to be the bishop of the first Lamanite ward in Page, the Page 4th ward. And then she goes on to mention her kids and how my oldest sister, Tammy, was decided to go on a mission, and she was called to serve in the Bilbao, Spain mission. Following her, my other sister, Serena, upon graduating, she went to BYU. She attended BYU for a year, I believe, and she decided to go on a mission, and she was called to serve in the Columbus, Ohio mission. While she was still on her mission, I got my mission called to serve in Honduras, Central America. And my younger brother, he also went on a mission. He served in the Guam, Micronesia mission. She just says, she mentioned that all her kids were able to serve missions, and she thinks it was she feels like they were really, really blessed by being raised in the church, and she's grateful for that.
That's amazing. When you first joined the church and you were attending church regularly, was it in Navajo, or did somebody interpret it for you? How did that work for you?
Church open in Yahanda, church goes land back was an ego hanne, the neck ajishi hanne, Belgana ajishi.
missionary and children that you got. I don't completely obligate it. I need out 10,000. though how should in the journal should have being Chicago.
She was kind of short with that answer, but she said there was not much teaching in Navajo. Of course, you had to go to church in Page. I think there was one ward then, so there was mainly probably white members there in the Page area. She says missionaries were there, but they didn't speak. Obviously, didn't speak very good Navajo. But she says she gained her own understanding and testimony kind of on her own. And she said the Lord really blessed her in that way, how she's able to understand and gain a testimony despite not being able to speak English and not being able to hear everything being taught in a language that is not her own.
That's amazing that you were able to do that, Sister Begay.
Okay.
I was wondering, and I don't know how personal this is, or if it's inappropriate, but I keep wondering if there are any miracles that she's been able to witness that are not too sacred to share, if she wants to tell any of stories like that.
就被that nan kin basic or just lay jo a banses case. Dola do digin. Ayo shop nego con. Nan kin shisha yilla da lansen. Open na she. Shich on yat ego. Yat egi shich on yilla. Ado shakshin. Then na she even na she da is she go jitlo. Called she store or the bay as she free. That see the hand suddenly. Uncle I was a bit so doesn't begin epa in show that will be so the sin. The way so doesn't I get na shadow thou a sagish and Helen. I rush it on it or what slash actually. Juna go bananas your sin go. Sure, Juna go bananas yilla. Out of St. George, Temple. None necessarily snap it don't need. Out of Temple not necessarily. Lunge gonna Temple gonna be hard at it in ye. Ajas etasle ajnanis go be sache benans yosen. Ado na honne St. George. So late dina seal idolis temple de nabet don't need. Esha chinad art episkai. Ea. Ado yes.
Elder Holland.
Peasant Holland ea bless the whole la. I add a ikabo. It's a dozen. Ado seal edges and yiha nahwal edge bahananis nana sling. Ado nas now just the lay harita church de conference got the other dog ashen hit at me. Shut the other hat of and hit at me. A quarter heat ash. Lechin lead and lay is as pass. Kiante tuba. I had it outstanding. Quarter heat ash ad. Anitla heitsi. Chin lady and the other ashnan hit on need compass. Had doch sich don't hit it need that all other doch ashnan hit don't need. Shinande or what's it? I thought church yet has. Yeah, will be mission go na ya. I don't. I will be church a ye kid out I got keep it the shnee. A cordy carpet in it. Chin laid it other than his canvas about way. A penny or ya in any other. Nation Nila, I had it and I see tat or Nila. Let it jacket I sauce. I don't add it and dance and down there. Hapon he don't name. Alcana has still hapon he did it has go. It has Alecona. Yahanan he is. I don't sit on it. Of course, she mission has it out, and he is. There's it on us. She kid at any dash, but don't need. I do the table chain on this. Her kid need dash now, what don't need. I did I don't need. I don't call. Here on H. I'd see though. Easy na hate net on it. Take at the tata so need. I not shiny it don't need. Lie would be ya, she is now. Had it a hot ya, easy. Shut us a tunnel, let London send one lady. And chong we ain't not shashi a hot at it. Nizine. Oh, hey, check you shago. She nice as it's his name. As you at us town. And they had to see at none if you don't need. Is I don't that question you had night kate. aron tap ani tlahitsi aro e missionary sandatleko dit ash kondit ashko she missionary bachian anash mission pezabes sash kailo e ari e missionary da e ho e sanatleko aro bikira padel chico Juno go ada missionary sahi tleko dandit ash what out hadit ash missionary pez Pataho ako ajit missionary nasha kayan hiro haro e temple jade angelnish what ajit angelnish ko
So she said, your question was, what kind of, I guess, maybe anything miracles in her life. She thinks about the teachings that she was blessed with and the testimony that she gained. She feels like those are huge blessings in her life. And how what a good man her husband was, and how he really came to love the gospel and serve. She says she gained a big testimony of prayer, personal prayer. She says she never went without it. All the time she believes in the power of prayer. And back to her husband, she said her husband, having become really active and strong in the gospel, he accepted a calling to serve in the St. George Temple as as an endowment worker, and so she would go with him. They used to go every Friday. While he did work in the temple, she would help in the laundry room with laundering clothes. And while he still had that calling, another calling came to him. They got a call from Salt Lake City, and they wanted her, my dad, and her to come to Salt Lake. And so her, along with all her kids, they were able to go to Salt Lake to meet with Elder Holland. And my dad was called to be a sealer in the St. George Temple. So they were able to go there for that special occasion to have my dad ordained a sealer in the St. George Temple. So he continued on with that calling for a few more years. Well, I guess he always did that. But also during that time, they were often asked to come to state conferences and meetings on the reservation, different areas. They would go to Chinle, to Tisnazbas, to Kayenta, Tuba City. They would be asked to speak, and they would always go and speak. One other time, they were asked to come to Chinle for another state conference, and they went there, but they weren't asked to speak. They arrived, they went there one evening. Uh, she says she had an older brother who also served a mission and was really strong in the gospel, and that often they would ask him they would invite him along to go with them. And they went to Chinle. They spent the night in the hotel. The following morning, they went to this meeting, and they were kind of not being from the area. They were a little bit. They wanted to sit in the back, kind of out of view. But as they were sitting there, a man came and got them and said, "Come, follow me." So they followed him into a smaller room, and it turned out that this was a mission president. That this white guy was a mission president. He was president of the Phoenix, Arizona Phoenix mission, and he said he had they had called my dad to be a counselor to him. So my dad was set apart as a counselor to President Gill was his name, and they were blessed with the opportunity to serve as counselors to President Gill. And she said at that very moment he brought tags with their names on it already. President Begay, Sister Begay, and they put that on. And she said she got really emotional because she thought what a big blessing this is, and never thought in her life that she would receive such an honor, a big blessing to serve and to have a name tag like that. She said she was raised in really humble and poor circumstances, and she never imagined this opportunity, something like this. And she cried, and her brother hugged her and consoled her. But they visited missionaries a lot. Went to all the conferences. She said my dad would help with the meetings, and she would help prep meetings for missionaries. She enjoyed watching the missionaries meet. They would get their shoes shined, and her and the mission president's wife and some other sisters would prep meals for missionaries gathering.
That makes me very happy. Really, that is a miracle. That's a blessing, because that's not something that ever I'm imagining she never ever thought of that happening in her life, and that is a miracle.
Yes, I agree. Should be snart that would be possible. So this behind the ni like hakushin na hello be would be in so book just le they could take on na she ladi John.
Sister Begay, do you read English or Navajo? And if you do, have you been able to read the Book of Mormon?
I'll answer for her. My mom never went to a day of school in her life.
Okay.
She never went to school, so she never learned English. She can't write, she can't read, and she's never been able to read the Book of Mormon. No.
Have you ever had the scriptures read to you?
The ich college she's not idle to the of course Book of Mormon she had it her the Latin in will cut the no idle kick.
Job moment been on tin be yet or has the national shitahane. The net the moment be on tin years shitahane. It's ado ya, habit is tiko. The let nin at ehne do it or it, nishi, nihenal sauce eh. The nin so panses queso. I wrote so the sin that what is need to deep of mon be a hanne. Zadigish is shan ali Diego ella, big it is tea the snow. She's got lost cafe. And call what I be kitty ye can. Though it is cut the sheet then. I don't that shinado, she's not has me days tilda. I don't shall shin at either she trade her arco. What ella, I need anything. Uncle. You see, Bashit was you. What you church is shan. Jono said Ninky. I don't sit on. Arthur has it pop moment that's your Arthur. That is that's it toy. What's the cow? It table a nanishet. But actually, yeah, your heart has out. A chat with what he's now. As you all want to what's the cow? But what moment just has it all that's his stuff. I call up at the shinda. All that but what moment I shall have it in tra. Basic one that should off but the shin. Should I dance by husband? Or should me? The way you should see your strata. I dance by husband or should me. I call up out, but that kegel. All she's there.
So she said she was taught by others a lot, and that's how she slowly began to understand, and she began to feel that it was true, that it was a book of our people. She understood that, and she prayed a lot. She said she would pray to the Lord and say, help me to understand what I'm being taught. And she said, just clarify, she said, I never did go to school. my brother taught me a lot of lessons. My kids, my husband, they would teach me, read to me, and share stories with me. And she's grateful to understand everything that she was taught, and it may have taken longer, but she was able to understand everything and gain a testimony of it. Her husband, she said, read a lot, the scriptures, almost all the time. And sometimes they'd be sitting outside on the porch and he would be reading the scriptures, and she would ask him, "You always read the scriptures. Why don't you share with me what you're reading?" And my dad would say, "Well, you already know everything. Why do I have to teach you?" You already know. You already have a testimony. What else do I need to teach you? Um, that's kind of where she stopped.
Oh, that's funny. Sister Begay, how has the church as an organization been a blessing in your life? Has the Relief Society been a part of your life? Have you been able to help in primary? How has the actual organization of the church blessed you?
Church 또 나뉘어서 이게 있어. 저 church 또 하시는 때는 ben just Relief Society that's it 나뉘신 인데 일치는 않는 자주 that's it 난 좋은데 하시는 때 나뉘신 인데 that's it 이게 나 이렇게 하시는 때야 난 좋은데 church
Your Relief Society, yeah. Aje Relief Society peze. Bestanash bekete sitande. Aro na kide Relief Society. Bestanash shishnish aje. Aro le ko Relief Society do never kana algogi. In hindanishle. Aro le hanebet haditsi. Shidetni hota edonish inda. Ako. Nebet hasit ashit bahazan abikili thanige. Beyash beyat nebetish. Benebe bethashine. Ako. I'm not all ya hitanisi. Ha ilado in Tatan Journal and his wind net danishe. Ako. The ancient Shikana Lawson. Is she that so yes shy your leaf and sente. Ako what yeah. She's journey blue society genans a trash on. Ako what yeah. A car nash what there. So how she not so in Stratande.
She said she's had the opportunity twice to serve in a Relief Society presidency, and she was a counselor to the Relief Society president, and she enjoyed serving. There was a lot of work to do with helping others, sisters, and she was given assignments at times to talk or to counsel somebody, and she didn't hesitate to do that. She would go and do that. She said she taught by what she knew and just the testimonies she had. And oftentimes, the people that she would visit, the people that she would counsel, would compliment back to her and say, "Wow, you for not understanding English and not speaking English, you have a really strong testimony, and you're able to do your calling really well." And she feels like she was able to do all that by the help from help from the Lord, and she believes that he was able to help her in doing her calling and being able to express herself and to help others. One thing she didn't mention, I know she would give lessons from time to time, and we were the ones as kids, we had to help her, prepare lessons, and we would review everything with her. Because she can't write, she would draw pictures. And that was kind of how she organized her thoughts, and she would I guess how she understood it in her head. She would draw small pictures, and then she would take that piece of paper and go before the class, and that's how she was able to teach by the lessons that she was asked to give.
Well, that makes perfect sense to me. I envision when people talk to me, I see pictures of things that they talk about, so I can see how that would work instead of writing the actual language. So.
Yeah, because she wasn't able to do that, so that's what she had to do.
Yeah. Sister Begay, who in your life has been a great example of living Christ-like?
Job na bashana shagi or ye. You see. You see that petsil when I say church ye. I want anash ego. But ado yego. Oh, he's ado vision teaching adult. Then he nego. Or call it over has a banish lingo. Sister that was in the ashen day. I can't have a hatish asher, yobanishle. The ea yit asher. Shata ishe, asher bahazanigi. Belhashin, beba, bebelhashinette. The eben yet it, and what out, the snow. Of Belbahazanota. No hala nada needs in hito. Eben ye quote, how had the carp at the snow. Belhashinette deed, in 19 Hades. Though at all date either. The snow sister Belhashinette. Ja, steht that the Kahada also. The in Hades, for the in Hinan, shit that it needs been yen hair. Ebony, ya, corn hit handy, can hit on Halana than it's in Hala, Nahatan hinne, even yen hit a wheelne. But the sniff and less sisters have a eat Ashko. And what Annie, what I was Bahaziko. The Yobohanetle, business legally.
But she said there are many examples that she's had in her life, and she's learned many strong members, and she's learned a lot from all of them. One thing she mentioned was visiting teaching. She enjoyed doing that a lot, going to do visits with other sisters, and she learned from a lot of these visits from the sisters that she went with. She said at times she would be the one that had to teach, and she would do that from her own understanding, from the testimony that she has. She would share with the sisters that they were visiting, their desire for them, why they were there. She would explain that we all came from heaven to do a work, and that was why they were there. That they had a desire for these people to return to church and to have the blessings of the gospel in their life. And she just says that was a big blessing to her, and she enjoyed doing that very much.
That's great. Sister Begay, do you have a favorite hymn? And do you like to hear it sung in both Navajo and in English?
Church those sin she's like Allah on the youth behot trafel dat nil jonne or dat the naya dat trafel den sak op het ganna kitchende slaashing yon youth
Doris and Doris and the Shikan Jolie. The neck a shaking Jono be has traffic at Oya. Or she did at it as a nation day a sheet a conde. A betash me laho. A com. No what I yo. بهش خالن دي قدية دو سجب بهش خالتا نك أشيكي أرو بلغانا أشي دو شتازن دان دا تيتس إيهو تيتاشيت إشي تيتس إيهو شلن جوني أيو باشل خوجوخي أرو شما دوش جاء شوش شما شوش بليات إيسلين أرو شوش كي يارو شجاء نان شجاء بنها نشنيتنا أتكون شكوي لارو آسا نجونو إتي آجو تبل ناج آج بخيت جاء تاني تأني همارون هجاء بتشنسيل ذن كيليا أكون أوازو باشل خوجو باقي السن أو هبيئيا آني أنسن أدو بهم بيجي خلنا يجيتو آني
Okay, she said she doesn't understand, of course, obviously, she doesn't understand the hymns in English, but she recognizes the hymns, that they're church hymns, and she enjoys hearing them. It makes her happy to hear those church hymns being sung. They also still have some Navajo hymn books, probably not so available anymore, but I know in our warden page we used to have some. A lot of the members out on the reservation know that they learned some of these hymns in Navajo, and she says she used to enjoy singing some of those hymns, but she kind of probably from not frequently singing them, she kind of forgot some of them, and she says her voice is not so good anymore, so she doesn't sing those very much anymore. But she also mentioned that her mom and dad also joined the church, and her mom really liked what the church was about, and she joined the church. And her dad also came along after, and he stopped his work as a medicine man and joined the church. They were able to go to the temple. There are 10 of her. Let's see. There are 13 in her family altogether, and 10 of her and 9 of her siblings were able to be sealed to their parents in the temple. And she began to kind of share her testimony about the Book of Mormon. And
well, that's amazing. I actually, before we ask the last question, I wanted to open it. Sister Begay, what's something that you wish I was asking you? What's on your mind that you wanted to share right now?
جوتين أنا نانتين لهجي أنا سيباشي خوجودو ليدي إستدام تيم بتصادح تدي كادا نانش نخادا هكستا إدي رايسي يا باكي نسندا باشي خوجود آنيت نخيا تيم بكين هك خيي كودا نهتسيستا هزلين أنا نبلا ما بيحور نبلا أشلان ليني صدا أتسوي ديجين بارشنينيتنا تويا ديجين أوني إسنيتا بانايدي كايين يا نانش نكيف إشاداليا أرودي نبيحور نكيت نبيحور نن بس إشتجيني تلينيكي آنيت أجور دنا تاسيتلي دي رو شو باكي نسن أجد نشلنسن جبل كان شيء تو باتا ديستادا أكون هي نخادا ديستا بلكان شيء بتحصل إنتي إنت يتختن له أكون وهبين شيء لا تيجين خان سكيسكو أخد إيجو إياه تيجين بأكشنة تنيتله Akonle bahos ko jon sa hat da chinas inko. O picture that naznel. And that temple naznel that says in Dolato. The ya the next ya the hunzin that chinzin. Ni he ba the hunzin ba the hunzin go what out. Yo ba here has I don't the temple go. It's not a kahi I see shit in journey.
She's happy to have the gospel in her life. She's grateful for it. She said that we all left the presence of our Father in heaven. We're given a work to do. We came here on earth. We are all children of our Father in heaven. We're given the gospel so that we can return to him. She said, I'm thankful to be a member of the church and to be a member of the tribe of Israel. And said Bilaganas, who's the white man, they had to be baptized to become a part of the house of Israel. But she said we were born into it, and that makes us very special. She said when she sees pictures, oftentimes of just I guess pictures of people, she thinks that others don't have the gospel, but we already do. We have the gospel, and she's grateful for that, and we should be aware of what a great blessing that is. Right there.
Church then the lady Judas Snippen church Nalia.
Sister Begay and Justin, thank you so much for your time and for your testimony, and that you are such a good example of living by the Spirit. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'm just really happy for this episode, and I know it didn't end exactly the way I normally end it, but it ended well, and I'm so grateful that she was able to share her testimony with us. So this weekend was our stake conference, and we had a visiting authority. His name is Michael John Tay. He is Chinese from the Philippines, and he came, and on Saturday night at our adult session, he talked about traditions and customs, culture, and I actually found it really relevant to this podcast. He talked about when they were converted to the gospel of Jesus Christ, to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He said that he was raised Catholic in the Philippines, and they practiced some, they weren't like every week attenders. They did the big holidays and everything, but when his parents found the gospel and their family started embracing it, they realized that there were some practices that they had, and I don't know what they were. He didn't tell us. He said there were some traditions that they had, culturally, religiously, that they had held on to for a long time. And as they learned about the gospel and different things about the gospel, they actually, as a continual process, they let go of things, and they kept the good things, of course. And I think that's what the message of this podcast is that we embrace the gospel and let go of the things that are not the gospel, are not bringing us to the Savior. He talked about how they would just think as a family, they would look at things and be like, I don't think this is what we should be doing. And so they stopped doing things and they started doing other things. They would do things, and like I said, he didn't tell us specifics, but he just told us, and I felt the spirit of what he was talking about. He shared that even when he got married, he and his wife, they evaluated things in their lives and thought whether or not things were aligning with what they knew about the gospel of Jesus Christ. And I've actually done that in my own life. Like, when I was growing up, for Mother's Day for many, many years, we'd go out to eat because the dads didn't want to cook and they wanted to treat the moms. And I remember that. And then I think there came a point when, I don't know why or who or how, but we stopped doing that because that wasn't keeping the Sabbath day holy the way we reevaluated our lives and came to know the gospel better. And I think that's one of the beautiful things about the gospel is we can always improve and we can always look at ourselves and make those small adjustments. And so I just really felt that was important to share today, and I'm so grateful for all of you, and I'm so grateful for all that you teach me and share with me. And I just love our Savior Jesus Christ, and I want you to know that I am so grateful for for Easter, that he did the atonement for us, and that he rose, he escaped the tomb, and that he lives now, and that he knows me. And I just wanted to share that with you, and I hope you have a super wonderful, awesome day.
Tribe of Testimonies is not affiliated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The music is a traditional hymn, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, arranged and performed by Kyle Forsyth. If you know someone who might be interested in being a guest, please reach out to me at tribeoftestimonies@gmail.com.